Can I tell you a story? Great. So I'm at my local Dollarama, doing some grocery shopping because I'm a poor college student, and as I'm wandering the aisles, I find something amazing. Holy shit. Is that Starlink Battle for Atlas for the Nintendo Switch? Wait, isn't that like a $90 game? It's only $10. What a steal! And I bought it immediately. So, it turns out, what I bought didn't actually come with the game. That's probably why it was so cheap. But I don't actually care about that, because it came with this! And some white guy. I don't really care about him. This is an Arwing figurine from Star Fox. Okay, well, no, actually, it's the controller for the game. See, it was a part of this weird fad in the 2010s called Toys to Life, where you would use these toys to play the game. It was actually really cool and innovative because of the different ways it allowed you to interact with the game space. But it's also an Arwing figurine from Star Fox. And I bought this with no hesitation because I knew I would never be able to find something like it ever again because the Star Fox franchise is dead. Okay, let me quantify that. I am being a little hyperbolic. Officially, the franchise isn't over or retired. It's not like Daft Punk. Star Fox just isn't what it used to be, and at this point, I'm not sure it ever will be. So, let me explain how we got here. And I guess there's no better place to start than the very beginning.
In the beginning, God created the heavens.
Not that far back. No, we only need to go back to 1993, when Star Fox first debuted on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. See, when Star Fox showed up on the gaming scene, it was unlike any other console game at the time, because it looked like this! Alright, trust me, I know this does not look very impressive, especially compared to what games look like nowadays. Remember, this was 1993, on the SNES. Games were supposed to look like this! Getting graphics like this outside of an arcade was fucking mind-blowing! This was the jump from pixels to polygons, baby! This was all thanks to the aptly named Super Effects Microchip! And I'm not here to bore you to tears with how it worked, but what's important is that this groundbreaking chip that brought gaming to the next dimension was made specifically for Star Fox. And as a result, the game was a huge success, not just because of the graphics. The fast-paced arcade shooter gameplay, the branching paths, the characters and world all worked together, and it sold 3 million copies. Naturally, with any game as successful as Star Fox, a sequel was imminent. A sequel that built off the foundation of the original. And by 1995,
el chip Super FX
had been upgraded to the Super Effects Chip 2. So Star Fox 2 could be even better than the original, incorporating tighter gameplay, non-linear progression, real-time strategy, more vehicles, more characters. Too bad it was never released. Nintendo just chose to cancel it, which came as a huge shock to the people working on it. And it's a shame, too. The game was completed. There's a lot of speculation behind this decision. It wasn't made fast enough. Miyamoto hated it. The new characters were too hot! Okay, I made that one up. Most likely, it was because technology was advancing so quickly. The PlayStation was already on the market, and not wanting to compete with old technology, or against themselves, because a little-known console was about to debut. 1996 brought with it a new console, and just 1 year later, the next Star Fox game, Star Fox 64. Meaning, they not only skipped Star Fox 2, but Star Fox 3 through 63 as well. Still, this game is a classic. It's regarded as the pinnacle of the series. Selling 4 million copies, it built on everything from its predecessor, and even borrowed some ideas from the unreleased game. All while still bringing new elements to the franchise, like multiplayer, expanding the lore, and a fully voice-acted cast of characters new and old.
All aircraft report. Do a barrel roll.
Fox, get this guy off me! wrong? Hey, Einstein, I'm on your side!
It's about time you showed up, Fox.
Can't let you do that, Star Fox.
You will die just like your father.
But these are small potatoes compared to what Star Fox 64 brought to the gaming industry as a whole. Star Fox 64 introduced gaming audiences to
This is the Rumble Pack. The big reason why Star Fox 64 is the coolest cinematic gaming experience there is.
That's right, Controller Rumble. It seems so simple, so mundane now. But back in 1997, it had never been done before, and it set a new standard for gaming. I don't even think you can get a controller without Rumble anymore. That's how ubiquitous it has become. And it's all thanks to Star Fox. And as a personal aside, it was my first Star Fox game. One of the first games I ever remember really getting into. I can't help but be a little nostalgic for it. Too bad it's all downhill from here.
Oh no!
Smash Cut! The year 2000. Legendary game developer Rare, or Rareware, it doesn't matter, is at E3 and is debuting their next big game for the N64, Dinosaur Planet. An action-adventure game where you play as an anthropomorphic fox and wolf to save a planet of dinosaurs.
Hey, wait, I thought we were talking about Star Fox.
Shut up! I'm getting there! Now, because this is the Electronic Entertainment Expo, naturally there are some big industry insiders just wandering around, and Dinosaur Planet caught the attention of none other than Mr. Video Game himself, Shigeru Miyamoto. You know, the guy who created Super Mario, The Legend of Zelda, Pikmin? Okay, that last one's not as cool. Oh yeah, he's also the designer for Star Fox! So, needless to say, this was kind of a big deal. Miyamoto saw a lot of similarities between the characters of Dinosaur Planet, Crystal and Saber, and the Star Fox crew, and thus, Star Fox Adventures was born. This, along with a shift in hardware from the Nintendo 64 to the forthcoming GameCube, transformed the game, changing a lot of the elements and aspects that had already been fleshed out in Dinosaur Planet. Also, while all of this was happening, Rare was being bought by Microsoft. After all of this, we get 2002's Star Fox Adventures, and it was fine. It was a completely serviceable action-adventure game, certainly not a Star Fox game, and that was its biggest critique. It felt more like an off-brand Zelda game. It also had to carry the weight of being Rare's last Nintendo game, but for a game that was made in such extenuating circumstances, it sold well enough, just under 2 mil. Though, it did give the Star Fox franchise a rough start in the new millennium. 3 years later, we'd see the release of Star Fox Assault, and just like Adventures before it, it wasn't developed by Nintendo, but Namco. The game returned to the traditional Star Fox formula, focusing on space shooting, but also pulled from Adventures, re-establishing on-foot combat, and even made Crystal a syndicated member of the Star Fox cast. The game was praised for its return to form, amazing soundtrack, and having the largest focus on story thus far in the franchise, but only barely breaking 1 million in sales, it never quite reached the highs of the previous games. Though the wait wouldn't be long for the next Star Fox installment, with Star Fox Command coming out the very next year and bringing the franchise for the first time on a handheld console, the Nintendo DS. Much like the previous games, the development of Command was not handled by Nintendo, but rather a first-time studio and Q Games. And they did alright. The gameplay was a little regressive because of the lesser hardware, and using the stylus to fly was always an interesting choice, but it stayed true to the space shooting the series is known for, and brought in a larger narrative impacted by player choice, with up to 9 different endings. Ultimately though, Command continued the downward trend of the series. It reviewed fine, but only barely breaking 500,000 in sales on the DS, one of the top-selling consoles around? It was underwhelming, to say the least. The lackluster performance of Command did end up putting Star Fox into its longest hibernation yet, not seeing its next release until 2011 with Star Fox 64. Wait, Star Fox 64 3D, a remake, remaster, reboot, redux, re-zero, port, report? It was Star Fox 64 again, but updated with new graphics and controls for the 3DS. Returning to the series' roots, Star Fox 3D reintroduced gamers to the height of the franchise. It sold well and was highly praised, though it didn't really advance the series all that much, just retreading old ground. And this one didn't even come with the Rumble Pack, though the idea of it making your 3DS shake violently is hilarious. Oh, this is so cinematic! But now we reach the most recent game, Star Fox Zero, which had the dubious honor of being released on the Wii U, a console that whole selling point was the innovation of having two screens, the TV and the gamepad. Nintendo thought this was the future of gaming. Only problem was, even after 4 years of being on the market, they had done a poor job of demonstrating that the Wii U was worth it. And that's not just speculation, that's from their own corporate briefing. So their solution? Why break out the franchise whose best titles are known for their innovation, of course, and thus Star Fox Zero was born. But, and I just want to point this out, isn't that a little backwards? It's not like they just had the Super FX chip or Rumble Pack just kicking around. They were made specifically for Star Fox to advance the experience. Having the Wii U and then grafting Star Fox onto it feels like the tail wagging the fox. This endeavor resulted in the bad, I'm just gonna call it what it is, terrible control scheme of Star Fox Zero. For those of you who didn't have a Wii U, hey, congrats. It played like the standard Star Fox game, but only now across two screens. So, if you wanted to see where you were flying and what was coming up on the level, you looked at the TV. But if you wanted to be able to aim and shoot, you had to look at the gamepad, and also use the motion controls. Unless you had chameleon eyes, this was terrible. Even Nintendo's own event staff had a difficult time pushing these controls.
I've seen a lot of people play out here in E3, and it's tricky to learn the controls right away because they do take some getting time to get used to.
Right.
Since you got to learn to fly with one stick and then aim around with the gamepad, and so it's like it's just a whole thing.
It was
whole
hard.
thing.
The first time I fired it up, I was like, man, I am terrible at this game.
Ultimately, this led to Zero being the worst reviewed and lowest selling game in the series ever, potentially being the final nail in the slowly sinking coffin that is Star Fox. And that's how we got to where we are today. It's been 6 years since Star Fox Zero, the Wii U is out, the Switch is in, and the series is now in its longest hibernation yet. I think reviewing the series' history is proof enough to show that Star Fox has been on a slow downward trend with dwindling sales since the 90s, but I think there are a few other factors I consider when saying the franchise is dead. For example, Star Fox has been around for almost 3 decades now, but hasn't really changed in all that time. Barring adventures, the core gameplay of all the games is the same as it was in 1993, an on-rails space shooter, again and again and again and again and again. Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But there has to be more room for innovation or alteration somewhere in this series, right? And despite how great the characters in these games are, it's not like these games are being carried by their story. Star Fox, the evil scientist Andross, wages war against the Cornerian army, and the Star Fox crew is brought in to fight against him. Star Fox 64.
Andross has again invaded the Lylat system. General Pepper has turned to a new Star Fox team headed by Fox McCloud to save Corneria and free the Lylat system once again.
Star Fox Adventures. But it turns out it was Andross after all! Star Fox Assault. An insect hive mind is threatening the peace of the Lylat system, and the Star Fox crew leads a counteroffensive to destroy the Hive Queen. Wait, this is an actual sci-fi plot. Star Fox Command. 9 different endings. Fuck it! You pick one. Can we go back? Star Fox 64, 3D. Guys, you're not gonna believe this, but it's Star Fox 64 again. Star Fox Zero. The evil scientist Andross wages Star Fox 2. Take your best guess. I feel this lack of any gameplay innovation and stagnant narrative are just demonstrating Nintendo doesn't know what to do with Star Fox. I think that's evident just looking at the series' history, especially after 64. The first one, not the remake. Star Fox Adventures, or rather Dinosaur Planet, was nothing like Star Fox. Nintendo just wanted to use the IP and Rare jumped at the opportunity. From then on out, Star Fox has just been passed around from different developer to different developer. Even Zero was partly developed by Platinum Games. It's like Nintendo doesn't even want to do anything with Star Fox. Like, they had been working on Zero conceptually for close to a decade, and it was still just a clunky reboot of 64. At this point, Star Fox is becoming a legacy series they pay homage to in other games. Fox and crew have made numerous cameo appearances in other games. And even beyond, actually. So cool. It's not like Nintendo's totally abandoned Star Fox, like another title of theirs. Mother 3! It has a home on their virtual console libraries, and hey, when they were selling the SNES Classic, the inclusion of Star Fox 2 was a major selling point.
And the never-before-released Star Fox 2.
Plus, the spirit of Star Fox lives on in indie games, with a spiritual successor, Whisker Squadron, coming out later this year. I'm very excited for it, actually. The devs made another game I really like. So, yeah, that's why I think Star Fox is dead, at least. And is this a lot of speculation? Of course, I'm just a fan of the series, basing this off of events and history and trends. Like, I don't have an uncle who works for Nintendo who can send me the links to Star Fox. No, I don't know if Nintendo's gonna release a new game. I don't even know what that game would look like. But I bet Nintendo doesn't either. If they announced tomorrow that another Star Fox game was in the works, I'd be super excited. But until then, I'm just gonna be happy with the Star Fox that I have. Look, there's a little fox in it.
Good luck.